Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big questions on exactly what Atlanta FaZe need to do if they want to turn things around at the World Cup and potentially going into next season as well. Is a roster change required, or could a role change or let's say playstyle change on the team be the key to their success? Dashy has changed his playstyle massively over the last few years and Cellium has as well, but arguably in the wrong way. Cellium started out very fast, aggressive player in his early days. Now a very different playstyle you see when you watch Cellium's arrow on the minimap. Slasher believes he played with Cell, he played with FaZe during the Modern Warfare 2 season. Change is required if they want to get back to the top. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, just a couple of updates really on the whole Miami Heretics potential Rostermania stuff. Heretics are going to be in Riyadh for the World Cup, of course, and well, who knows what they're going to do after that. The current state is Miami Heretics were good this season. They were probably better than people expected them to be. They qualified for champs. They were a threat. They got their upset wins. Their search and destroy was very good. But is their team good enough, right? What is the intention for Heretics? Are they trying to win events? Because if they're trying to win events, their current team with MettalZ, Lucky, ReeaL and Vikul probably isn't going to be good enough to do that. Now, is it possible to form a Spanish team that's good enough to do that? You can argue no, but it depends what your ambitions are, because there are some players such as Super, who had an unbelievable year, Spanish player in MW3 Challenges, and Rencor, who also has an unbelievable year in MW3 Challenges. These guys could be considered to come into the fray. Now, I'm pretty sure these guys speak English as well, so it's not impossible they can actually join another team. But Slayer here, who knows an awful lot about what's going on down in the Challenger side, talks a little bit about the beef, right, between the Spanish guys that we've just talked about, Rencor and Super, and those that are actually on the Heretics team. Because, so the 5 media clan, or whatever they were called guys, which is Rencor, Super, and that team, they have some beef. I still don't exactly know what it is. And Slayer says, like, I don't actually know what caused this beef, but there is personal stuff and egos getting in the way of that Spanish scene. And it seems like Journey is like the only guy who can properly straddle between the two. He's pretty chill. He doesn't care for the beef. ReeaL apparently doesn't mind them either. And there was some speculation exactly on what maybe the beef stemmed from. So I'm still not sure what the answer is. I kind of always presumed it was some sort of like Catalonia thing where it's like Barcelona versus Madrid. But I am probably completely making that up. But there is some sort of drama there, right? And this is the problem for Heretics, is that, let's say, MettalZ I think is going to stay. In many respects, I think MettalZ probably has the keys. I wouldn't get rid of Vikul either. I think he is a valuable asset. ReeaL was pretty good, but I don't know, he was a bit underwhelming to me towards the end of the season, to be honest. He had a few maps where he just started out really slow, and, you know, pun not intended, not really a pun, you know what I mean. ReeaL slow was getting it there, but, you know, whatever. Maybe there's something to be considered there. And then Lucky, I don't know, Lucky is a solid player for sure, but again, bit up and down and considered to be a bit of an onliner generally. I don't know. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. So, like, if I was Heretics in an ideal theoretical world, I'm looking at getting Super and Rencor in and making a couple of changes to the roster to maybe try and take an even, you know, step up. But what if MettalZ ain't about that, right? What if Vikul ain't about that because there's some sort of beef? I don't know. Just something to think about in this Rostermania saga, which is going to unfold as soon as the World Cup ends. Let's go through some of the top 20 then. Top 20 of 2024, 17th place goes to Dylan Attach. Good season for him for sure on the Vegas Legion. Unfortunately, didn't quite make it to the World Championship in the end, but just had a good season overall. Stage 2 was especially good, and then Stage 4 as well, after they made their changes, stepped it up to a new level again. So yeah, impressed by Attach this season for sure. I wonder where he's going to land next year really, because definitely is going to be in that conversation. I guess the point is, obviously was on Rocker last year, was on Vegas this year. There's not many players that have played for Vegas and get another opportunity again in the league. It's just the reality of things. Vegas will keep him around, I'm sure, if he wants to stay or if he doesn't get a better offer. The issue for Attach, I suppose, is that he's got another, you know, they're probably going to release his contract and he's got to wait a couple of months before they re-sign him. That's the general theory. Attach should get offers elsewhere. Then again, Attach said, I will say probably 2 seasons ago now, that he will play for 2 to 3 more seasons, then call it a day. So I don't know what Attach's thought process is there, but like, I still think he's good enough to compete on a top level, and I think an offer should come along, whether it's Vegas or otherwise, in this upcoming period. Was certainly one of the top players of the season on that team. Skyz gets 16th place. Obviously, there was the drama the other day away with the Dashy versus Skyz clutch player of the year thing. And look, I agree with you guys in the comments. Like, to me, Dashy was the clutch player of the year. But, you know, I just thought the overreaction was... I thought it was an overreaction, personally. But anyway, Skyz is interesting that his featured statistics, a lot of them are clutches, right? 1v1 clutch percentage, 1v2 clutches online, which is an interesting stat. He's the best on that as well. But, look, his overall numbers, pretty solid. Not the best year for Skyz. He wasn't as impactful this year. Like, I usually compare Skyz to, like, Insight, you know, kind of similar players in some respects. Insight, I think, was like 19th here. Skyz is 16th. Probably about right, really. There's going to be lots of the Subliners guys in this kind of ballpark, and then HyDra's going to be slightly further up than that. Of course, he made champs, had a good start to the year, but towards the end fell off a little bit, really. To be honest, though, this coincides with Simp turning up. I think for Skyz, you know, yes, his numbers at champs, yes, his numbers at stage 4 weren't the best, but Simp wasn't the best in stage 1, stage 2, and when Simp became really good, then Skyz kind of falls off a bit, which is expected, and Skyz was effectively just committing to doing the role that he needed to do. Picking up the hill time in the hardpoint was effectively what he was up to, while Simp ran around and got all the kills. And you could argue that's what Cell might want to consider doing, and we'll discuss that in a second. 50th place actually goes to Gwyn. Lots of debate on, like, I think Gwyn was actually one of the more controversial characters of the entire season. Not from, like, an individual perspective, like, oh, well, he's causing so much drama. It's more like, do people rate him or do they not rate him? Because his numbers on here look very good, but a lot of these numbers are online numbers. I mean, if you look at his LAN numbers, they were not as good anywhere near really as he was online. And part of that, again, was that his teammates, Clay, Felony, especially TJ to some extent, they turned up on LAN. So Gwyn didn't have as many kills to go around. But the LAN placings weren't very good, and his online numbers didn't really translate to LAN. And despite a really good middle stint of the year, wasn't so good right at the start or right at the end. So, you know, I think this is maybe about right. Gwyn, of course, was given the Rookie of the Year for the entire season, but and individually was obviously a very good player. Will he get a better offer next year? I'm not so sure. Let's say in like May, June, it really felt like, wow, yeah, Gwyn's gonna, you know, some really good team is gonna try and get Gwyn next season. Nowadays, I'm not so sure it's so clear that is exactly the case. But speaking on topics such as this, we've got to talk about the whole Cellium stuff and exactly what that means for the future of this Atlanta FaZe roster, because this was FaZe for this season, and, well, even their last 5 games. Win, loss, loss. Not the way you'd expect them to end out the season. But these were the overall numbers of their year. Drazah with a 1.07, Simp with a 1.14, aBeZy with a 1.05. Slayer rating as well, just to kind of quickly explain this stat. It's the expected kills if a series went to 5. Like, literally, if a series goes to Game 5, Round 11, how many kills is this player expected to achieve in such a series? Simp's getting on average 86, which is pretty absurd. HyDra's right up there. Scrappy's right up there in terms of the Slayer rating. Nobody else really comes that close, apart from Shotzzy isn't far away. aBeZy and Drazah pretty similar, and then Cell a bit slower, but Cell had a 1.2 KD, 1.19 in the respawns. And if we look at the hardpoint stuff, Cellium 1.15, 72 seconds in hill, so the most on his team, lowest engagements on his team, lowest damage on his team, just actually ahead of aBeZy actually, so pretty interesting stuff there. Search and destroy though, Cell was pretty damn good. 1.28 KD, highest damage per round on the team, obviously wasn't planting or defusing the bomb much, but, you know, wasn't getting many first bloods like aBeZy was, but kills per round was definitely up there as well, and, you know, was in position to do some damage, and then in control a 1.25. So Cell's numbers this year, as always, incredibly impressive, and Cell's ability is absolutely undisputed. This guy's come into the league, has been incredibly talented. Whenever you see Cellium in like a 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3, you're always kind of concerned if you're on the other team, but the question has always been about the playstyle, whether he plays in the correct way, because if you guys remember this here from the World Championship, this is obviously Toronto versus FaZe. This is the first game that they played, and just have a look at number 8 on the minimap here. So this is number 8 in Cellium, and they've got to break this hill. They've got to pinch in right now. Number 8 needs to really pinch vent with his team. Now, he knows obviously number 8 is in Cellium. That someone, as in Envoy, is going to be looking for him. But look at what 8 does. He just, I mean, number 2 actually goes this way instead. Like, Cellium can literally pinch vents right now, but instead he doesn't, and he just holds and he waits for his entire team to die, and by the time he finally comes into the vent, it's game over, right? And this is when Scrappy actually basically stood up and said, Cell, are you trying to win? Are you trying to win or what, right? So this is just one example, and there's a few other examples. I mean, there's so many examples of this, to be honest, but this is just one perspective on Cellium's playstyle, really. And this is what Slasher had to say, of course, who played with Cell and was the 4th on FaZe during that MW2 season. I'm sure he'd like that year back in many respects, or would like to play with those guys again on a different title, because, you know, Slasher seems to think he knows the answer to how to fix that team, and he says Cell should 1000% be a flex. I think that was fundamentally the issue with that FaZe team with Slasher, was that Cell and Slasher from an AR perspective were clashing in terms of what they wanted to do. Slasher is the main AR. Like, he's a pretty fast main AR, really, compared to some of the other main ARs in the game. Like, he's reasonably quick. But, you know, he is still a main AR. And Cell should probably be a flex, or at least the second AR, the faster player. And that's what Slasher says. I don't care what he plays like right now, he should be a flex player. And in the early days, he was. I mean, arguably, when Cellium's teams were getting the most success, that was potentially when he was playing on a role like this. Now, like, the MP5 was unreal back here in MW19. But this was Cellium on a flex, effectively, during that game, using, I mean, even in Black Ops 4, like, he was a very fast player. And here he is, being aggressive in the hardpoint, getting kills, running around. And, you know, we don't see this from Cellium, like, anymore. But this is what he used to be doing. Like, this guy used to be unbelievable when he first came into the league. And doing so on a role that we don't see him run nowadays. So I'm not exactly sure what it is. I would even say during the Vanguard year, when technically aBeZy was meant to be the main AR, really, Cellium played, there were so many times on Gavutu control that aBeZy would be spawning up behind Cellium and then be sprinting past Cellium to get to the point. I don't know exactly why his playstyle changed in this way, but it just cannot be the most impactful way for Cellium to play. And I just thought it was interesting, really, to look at. This is his event stats sorted by KD. And you'll actually find that many of the events that they won, the events were like, Cellium didn't have the best numbers, really. I mean, you're even looking down here, let's say, you know, this is Cold War, when, let's say, Cold War Stage 2 Major, which they came second, or Stage 4 Major that they won, he had a 1.11. Stage 3 Major that they won, he had a 1.12. This is Black Ops 4. This is, you know, MW19, where, of course, they weren't necessarily the best team, but they were often, you know, they won, made grand finals in multiple of these championships. And then when you scroll to the top here, right, Cell at 1.43 at last year's champs, didn't win. Vanguard Prime Classic, 1.43, didn't win. Launch weekends, that was a weird weekend, to be fair. There wasn't even really a winner. Major 5 in MW2, Major 3 in MW2, Major 1 qualifiers MW2, none of which they won. So is Slasher correct in his idea that, look, Cellium needs to change his playstyle, maybe other changes to FaZe are necessary in order to facilitate that? I would say probably yeah, because I think Dashy's changed his playstyle over the years to become a slower, more objective-orientated player, because that's what the team needs, and given his teammates, that's what their team now thrives upon. Cellium has done a similar thing, but I don't think it's actually massively beneficial to the team. And we were going through the top 20 voting, of course, for the players. And if you go through the players, like the 4 OpTic guys are going to be in the conversation for top 10 players in the game. Simp, of course, and aBeZy are in there. HyDra's in there. Scrap and CleanX are in there. You want to put Ghosty not too far away either. So, and Drazah, of course, as well, is in the conversation. And that's basically 10 or 11 players. I think I put Cellium this year as like the 10th or 11th best player in the game, which seems incredibly low and like hater energy, but I'm pretty sure I could justify that in a court of law this year, I'm not going to lie, just based on Cellium's actual impact, as far as I'm concerned, compared to some of those other players that I just mentioned. But very much interested your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Getting cut off kills over by Gun. Cellium at some point just has to make the move himself.
This is the 1v1. He could be the hero here for Atlanta FaZe. He shuts him down. He has no spawn control and realistically no support from his teammates. But Cellium gonna try and do it all. There's 2, dips and darts away. Goes for the repeat. There's number 3. Cellium number 4. What an incredible play from him. Somehow still alive. Atlanta FaZe with hill control. The cavalry is there. And Cellium, he's not done yet. Pushing through the smoke. The young rookie